we're going to take you through the top 10 moments of 2025 in the sport of throws, shot put, discus, hammer throw, and javelin on this week's Throw Show. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Throw Show. I am, of course, your host, Jason, joined, as always, by the People's Champ, the head throws coach of youth development at Throws University and Garage Strength, Olympic trials competitor, Coach Sam Weeks.
What it do?
Sam, it's been a while since you recorded. We've been on hiatus the last few months following the World Championships in Japan, and honestly, the roller coaster of Throws University has not really stopped since then. Before we get into the show today, of course, we're covering the top 10 moments in the sport of throwing in 2025. This year, we'll be ranking our top 10 biggest moments that we experience as throws fans to throwers. If you love the sport of throwing, if you're a fan, these are the moments that just got you the most hyped. And we're going to be breaking them down today. Before we get into that, though, we just came off probably one of the biggest events that we've held at Throws University. We came off the first ever United States Throws Coaches Clinic, where you, Coach Sam Weeks, were a speaker. Sam, we had you speak. We had, of course, Coach Dane Miller, the head of Throws University, speaking, as well as the new Penn State Throws coach, former Diamond League champion Darrell Hill, as well as the biomechanist that's been taking the throws world by storm, one Dr. Christoph Kipp, based out of Marquette University, where he did a deep dive in the biomechanics of shot put discus, as well as what we learned specifically from this past year's meet in Ramona, Oklahoma, where the world record and American records were broken for various different countries. Incredible event that we held there. And Dr. Christoph Kipp went deep into this stuff, and honestly, if you get a chance to see that event, see Dr. Christoph Kipp, you can learn a ton from what he has to say. But we came off this event, you spoke. Can you take me through what did you speak about and what were your thoughts on the weekend?
Yeah, so my presentation was about the tools, or what's in your toolbox. Essentially, it's just labeling the tools that help me be successful with the athletes that I serve. So I just wanted to give those resources to the 65 coaches that we had at our coaches clinic. Yeah. And the experience I thought was great. You know, we had live sessions where the coaches were able to watch, myself coach the athletes that work on site. They asked great questions. Me and Dane, and Darrell, we all did, Dr. Christoph as well. We all did a great job of just answering those questions, just, providing some more resources and more insight about everything that we do. So I thought that was a very great experience. We had two special guests. That was a big surprise for everyone, and I think that they thoroughly enjoyed hearing those two individuals talk. I don't know if we can say now.
Or... No. I actually posted both those Q&As on the YouTube channel. Okay. So, yeah, Mikhalos Allecna and world bronze medalist, Garage Strength's own Alex Rose were our guest speakers. As a coach, but also like fan / member of, fellow athlete, what did you think of those their speeches? And which, by the way, you can check out those full speeches and Q&As on the Throws University YouTube channel. But what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, as a fan, these are two of the top guys in the world. That's huge, and it was sick. Especially being at a local spot in Leesport, Pennsylvania, no one would have thought. So I think that was dope. But as a coach, I mean, hearing those guys speak just kind of relit the fire, in me, just all right, I can be better. I can be better to make sure that the athletes that I serve can be better, so that the whole process can be better. And, in the future, they can be those top dogs. So I thought it was a super cool experience. I know from the coaches that we spoke to, they enjoyed it a lot. And, it's something that we're looking to continue as the years progress.
Yeah, and we got a lot of great feedback from the coaches, as well as things that we think we can improve on. And that's top of mind in terms of what we want to do next year for this event. I'm hoping we can keep this as a yearly event because, this is the first time we really did a coaches style clinic. We've obviously had our camp for the last several years, coaching high school athletes. But like getting to talk to fellow coaches and getting to see their perspective on things and what we could provide insight into, this is probably my favorite event we put on so far. And I think we have a lot of cool ideas for how we can improve it in the future. And one thing I want to touch on in regards to those special guest interviews, if you're a thrower, I highly recommend listening to Alex's interview because the like what he had to say about his journey, like if you can't get motivated and pumped to want to start training after that speech, like I don't know if you have a soul because like the level of detail and talking about his passion for the sport, like I was looking around the room and I could see all the coaches just like nodding, like thinking like yes, this is why we do the sport. And then Allecna's interview was interesting in the sense that it was like a tell-all because like we didn't know what questions we were going to get because we got questions from the coaches themselves, their audience members, their fans, and some of the questions they got were so deep, rooted into like, questionable things regarding Allecna's career. That's like, these are things that you probably wouldn't often hear him get questioned on, but also like him being very honest and genuine in his responses. Both those interviews are currently up on the YouTube channel right now. After you watch this show, I highly recommend you go and listen to them if you haven't already. Share them with your throwers. If you're a coach, if you're a thrower, send them to other throwers, send them to your friends, send them to your coaches, because I guarantee you guys are going to learn so much. And what we're looking to do eventually is turn the clinic into a course in the future. So all those all the different lectures that you did, Darrell, Dr. Kip, and Dane will be featured in the future, so you guys can get access to all those speeches, so you can improve your coaching knowledge, better understanding technique, and as well as, and I think what you covered in yours was especially important, like creating a split during the high school season, which I think is one of the hardest things to do as a high school coach. So you have such limited time, like in the weight room or for the season itself. So, be on the lookout for that. That'll be on throwsuniversity.com. And we hope that'll be out soon after this video goes live. But now we kind of covered the coaches clinic. Let's get into the meat of this video as we get into the top 10 moments in the sport of throwing in 2025. So now we'll go with number 10 on our list. Number 10 on our list is a historic moment. Each one of these moments that you're going to hear, like, these are things that we're probably going to talk about for years to come. Every single moment was historic. It set a new precedent for the sport. And I feel like the best way to kick this off is with probably the most dominant thrower currently out there right now. This person has not lost in over 2 years of competition. And that is Valerie Allman winning her first world championship. Now, she's a 2-time Olympic champion, but she's kind of struggled in the last few world championships. She was expected to win in 22, did not win. That was won by Bin Fang. She was expected to win in 2023, and then Lagi Tasaga popped off like crazy, throwing 69 meters, and she got the silver medal there. So it's always been kind of like this drought and this gap in Val's career of like, when is she going to win that world title? When is she going to win that world title? Well, after 2 years of being undefeated and no one can figure out the solution to Val, she finally did it in Tokyo, where she won her first Olympic gold, her first global crown. So it was kind of fitting. It's like she had a nice bow on the present of her career, and now she can just continue being probably the most dominant female discus thrower in the history of the sport. What'd you think of her performance at Worlds?
Yeah, we talked about this beforehand, but Val finally completed her story, right? In terms of getting that world title. Obviously the last 2 championships, you kind of just missed out, just wasn't quite there. She performed well, don't get me wrong, but, it just wasn't the performances that would earn her a gold. And it was just like one of those things, like you said, it was kind of looming in the background. And I think she went into this competition knowing like, hey, like I'm top dog, I've been undefeated. Like my preparation is, above 100. It's like 120. Like that's how, confident and how well prepared her and, her coach Zion were for this championship. And, she did just that. She went into this competition, knowing that she is the best in the world, in discus, and she did her thing.
And I think what's crazy about it is like I just can't think of a woman who could potentially beat her. It's like in order to beat Val now, she has to have her worst day and the next best person has to have their absolute best day. That's the level of dominance she has. It's crazy how, like, if Val's just having a normal day, she should walk through most competitions. But I mean, it was still a good competition. You know, Jorinde Van Klinken, we talked earlier, threw over 67 meters. The athlete from Cuba also hit a massive personal best throwing 67 meters for bronze. So it was a tight competition in the other medal standings. But like, dude, Val just proved her dominance, and to add on top of that, it's like, you know, earlier in the beginning of the year, we talked about this during the outdoor season, was like her and Zeb basically posted a list of like, these are her PRs, these are the goals. You know, one of the first big check boxes was to get the Pan American NACAC record from Jaime. She threw 73.52 at Ramona. Check that box. And then everything was just win after win after win. I think she threw 71 at Nationals this year too, which came close to her. It may have been her all-time stadium PR when I talked to her as her post meet interview. So it's like, dude, I think this world title, while it is number 10, kind of is also like the cap of like an entire season of dominance. So now we'll get into number 9 on our top 10 list. And a lot of these, admittedly, are going to come from the World Championships because a lot of historic moments happened at the World Championships, a lot of upsets, but a lot of establishment of athletes' careers that are showing what the future is going to hold for this sport. And we're going to see Jessica Schilder be number 8 on this list as she wins her first outdoor global medal, global gold. She wins the World Championship on her last throw. Very, very clutch performance. I believe she was in 5th place going to that throw. If you want to learn more about our thoughts on that throw, make sure you check out the analysis that Dane did on it, because, you know, Jessica's been one of those athletes who's been like at the top tier of women's shot put for years. She's always been kind of in the background because, you know, whenever we talk about the throw show, it's like we're often talking about Chase. You know, we're talking about Sarah Mitten. We're talking about these other women, but the reality is like Jessica's always there. She's always in the mix of the medals. The fact that she did this on a clutch throw, last throw,
in a new format, by the way.
Yeah, that's right. In the new format of the World Championships, we didn't touch on that. As like, you know, the audience, the field gets chipped away every round into the final, so you lose one person each round until the 6th round. We have 5 athletes left? So. Yeah, 5 athletes. So it's an incredible accomplishment to come from behind like that in 5th place to win. Well done, Jessica Schilder. What'd you think of that performance?
Yeah, dude, no, it was a clutch moment.
Yeah.
I personally went into that competition saying like, oh, like Chase has it. Like, I think Chase is going to win. I think Sarah's going to do well. I definitely had Jessica Schilder, you know, within my top 3 because, you know, we've been talking about her all year, you know, from indoors to outdoors leading into this championship. Like, she was definitely on our radar. But just like how it played out, looking at my notes, Madison Lee Wesh, is she have last name? Wesh?
I mean, Wesh or Weshy.
She went 20 meters first toss, and I was like, oh, dude, like, that's huge. And I felt like because she did that, she was calm, cool, collected, it kind of frazzled everyone else. And we definitely saw that leading into the finals and, you know, definitely the last couple rounds. But the last, I think it was round 6, Chase popped off, and then Jessica popped off. And it was just like one of those things where it's like, you're in this new format, you have other athletes going crazy early on. It's like, will this be your moment? And Jessica Schilder was like, yes, this will be my moment. All of the work, all the preparation that I put into this point is for this one moment. And, you know, she did just that. You know, she claimed gold. All of the talk was, you know, for that one moment, and she did it.
Yeah, and one thing I'll even add to this, not to take away from Jessica, but it's like, you know, we see Madison constantly perform at these majors. It's crazy because most of the pro season, she's very understated, but then every major she performs.
Yeah, she shows up.
So it's like, you know, I hope, you know, I'm glad to see she captured her first world medal. You know, she was the Olympic silver medalist last year. I think, you know, at some point she's probably going to be ready for gold medal contention. So it's really exciting times for the women's shot put.
Absolutely.
So now we'll get into number 8 on our list. as we go back to Tokyo in the World Championships as Julisi Angelo from Ecuador wins her first World Championship in the women's javelin. And I believe this is the first world medal for an athlete from Ecuador in the throws events. And we spoke about this prior to the show. She was like basically unranked going into this competition.
Yeah.
She threw over 65 meters to secure that win. And it makes it difficult from our perspective to predict these championships for women's javelin, because I feel like the women's javelin is just so, like, it's so wide open in terms of which athlete can win on the day, because we don't really it's not like the women's discus, it's not like the men's shot put where there's like a clear front runner. There might be 10 different women in the world on any specific day that could win this championship. And this was an incredible moment. I know it was very exciting for the country of Ecuador. I saw a lot of people sing her praises on social media as a great person, great athlete. And the fact that she, came out from no one really knowing who she was to come out and perform like that. What do you think, as someone who's worked with javelin throwers, like to see a performance like this at the World Championship? What do you think?
Yeah, no, dude, I thought it was huge. I personally I wasn't aware of this athlete beforehand.
Yeah.
But watching the competition, I was like, oh, dude, like she's kind of low key cooking.
Yeah.
Obviously, she went big. She went 65-12, which was a national record. And there's no better place to do it at the last meet at the World Championships. Like that's a huge honor in itself. And then I'm pretty sure, because I looked on her social media, I think they had a parade for her when she got back.
Dude, that's awesome.
And it's just like, dude, like those are the moments like you're never going to forget. Like obviously like she made her name in the history books, but like just the reception of her doing what she did, like it was amazing. It was huge. And it's like one of those things where it's like, I hope she continues to just, put the pedal to the metal and just continuing to progress and, really kind of just showing the world like, hey, like this isn't a fluke. I did this, going back to preparation, I prepared for this moment. And I hope it's one of those things that just continues to develop.
And now we're going to go to number 7 on our list. We're going to stay in Tokyo again, but also kind of shift back into China, as we're going to discuss the world junior record holder in the women's hammer throw, Zhang Jila, who threw 77.24 a month before the World Championships at, again, the Chinese Nationals. But we're not talking about necessarily her world junior record. I want to talk about the fact that at 17 years old, she came out and got the bronze medal throwing 77.10, 14 centimeters short of her world record. 77 meters as a 17-year-old athlete medaling at your first world championship. Not only that, like she did it in Tokyo, so it's like just a hop, skip, and a jump from China. This was one of the craziest things to see, like to see the dominance in the youth team for women's for Chinese women's throwing is insane. Like between the hammer, they've historically been really good at the hammer throw. They obviously have Bin Fang in the discus throw. Their women's team is off the charts. They've had incredible shot putters, obviously Gong Li Zhao. Like it's crazy to see where Chinese throwing is going to go in the future. But 17 years old, 77 meters. Yeah. We're talking about a throw that back in like 2009 would have been the world record.
Yeah.
That blows my mind. And not only that, you know who broke that world record to be the first person to throw 77? Anita. Okay. So it's like thinking that she's thrown 77 like a few years earlier than Anita did.
Yeah.
And Anita went on to be the greatest hammer thrower of all time.
Yes, the best.
What do you think of that performance? And, we'll probably we're going to be covering more of the hammer throw later on in this video. But, like, what do you think of just 17 years old, 77 meters?
Yeah, dude, no. That's literally like a cheat code. Like,
yeah.
You are a cheat code. In a good way, in a good, positive way. It's just like one of those things, I said before where it's like these younger athletes are just cracked out. Like, they have better resources and they're doing great things at such an early age. Like, I couldn't imagine being 17 and saying, I am the third best in the world in my sport. Mm-hmm. Like, that is such a flex. Like, that is such a difficult thing to do just in general, like sports are extremely hard, especially when you get to the world level. You are the third best in the world.
Do you know what's even crazier about that?
Shoot.
She would have won the Olympics last year with that throw.
Look at that. Like, just obviously, like, you have to be physically prepared, but just the mental part of that.
Yeah.
Like, you have to have an iron mind.
Yeah.
You are at the World Championship, and like the World Championship was packed.
Yeah.
Like, it was packed out. You are in front of thousands of people, and you have to execute this, unique skill at the highest level.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous. Like, that is actually insane. And it's just like, it's only going to get better.
Yeah. And it's going to be exciting for both those athletes, what their future holds. And, dude, Chinese women's throwing, it's like, they're Gong Li Zhao retired, I believe this year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like to see like the next generation coming up to take that spot it's awesome to see. It shows a very healthy nation for the sport of throws. I'd like to see some men come out of China. I don't know, like, if that's possible, but really the women have just been on fire the last few years.
That's facts.
So for number 6 on our top 10 list, I've doubted this man in the past. After this performance, I can no longer doubt him in the future, regardless of what shape he may or may not be in. And as world championship heavy as this list is, the moments that happened at these championships were so historic and so monumental to the sport that's like, I feel like we can't leave them off. So with that respect, I gotta pay homage to the GOAT of shot putting, and that's Ryan Krauser. Was the result that he had the farthest he's ever thrown at a major? No, he's thrown much farther at majors. But how often can you say that an athlete did not compete the entire year, their opener was the World Championships, and still won? And that's what Ryan Krauser did in Tokyo. Did not compete the entire year. There was over 22 meters. The only athlete through 22 meters in that competition walks away with another world championship. I believe this is his third world title. So now he's matched it with athletes like Werner Gunther, John Godina. I don't know what else to say. It's like you can say like, when Krauser's on his best day, he's throwing mid-23s. But when you're fighting Krauser on his absolute worst day and he still walks out the champion, he's the GOAT.
Yeah. I mean, that's literally the definition of the greatest of all time. Like,
yeah.
We said this earlier. It's like in the space of throwing, like you have the old heads talking about how great like Randy Barnes and Brian Oldfield were. And it's like when we get old, like we're going to be the same old guys talking about how great Ryan Krauser was. Like, this dude has the most 22 meter tosses in history. This dude has the most 23 meter tosses currently in history. This dude didn't compete all year and still won a major championship. Like, what else can we say, dude? Like, dude won, a couple years ago, blood clots. Like,
yeah.
He is the greatest. Like, there's nothing you could do.
Like, that'd be like if Michael Jordan didn't play all season and then just started up for the NBA Finals.
Yeah, and won, which you could make an argument could happen.
Yeah, you have a team behind you versus just one guy.
Yeah.
And that competition was just, incredible all around when you see the athletes who end up, making the podium at that competition. So, yep, I said it during the World Championships recap. I'm saying it again. I bow down to Ryan Krauser. He is the best of all time. I'm not going to doubt him again. He could come in with a broken foot, and I'm still going to say he's going to walk out a gold medalist because he's clearly proven himself in every regard of the sport. So congratulations to Ryan Krauser. He's that dog. He's that guy.
He's that dog.
Okay, so now we're going to go into number 5 on our list. Again, we're staying with the World Championships, but dude, when you're talking about athletes who are performing at the highest level, their goal is to perform their best to the world championships. And this athlete did exactly that, setting a new personal best. And Canada is absolutely dominating this event. In the men's hammer throw, it's Ethan Katzberg. He is the reigning 23 world champion. He is the reigning Olympic champion. This man, I thought what he did in the Olympics couldn't be topped, throwing 84 meters on his first round. Well, he walks into Tokyo after kind of being like, a little understated most of the season. He didn't have like the big marks like he had previously going into a major, especially when you had guys like Rudy Winkler. You had guys like the Hungarian athlete Bence Halaz, Mika Kokan, like all these guys throwing really far going into this championship. But Ethan Katzberg laid the hammer down. He's like, nope, this is my event, and you guys ain't taking it from me, as he goes 84-78. And it's commonly thought of that like Koji Murafushi, ironically Japanese athlete, has like the farthest clean throw by a hammer thrower, 84-86. So the fact that he's within 10 centimeters of Koji's best throw is like another stamp of like, I think Ethan's going to break the world record, like as a clean athlete. And he's so young. He's like 22, 23. It's incredible to see what Ethan has done. What was your take on Ethan? Because not only did he perform well, but that whole hammer competition was off the charts.
Yeah, just like how you doubted Krauser, I doubted Ethan. And just like
we were backing up our homeboy Rudy.
Yes,
so.
Yeah, but I doubted Ethan, and I came out and I said I will never bet against Ethan, even though I am USA biased and I'm probably gonna do it again, but I'm not gonna do it again.
Yeah.
But nah, dude, like Ethan showed up. He threw 84-70, which was a championship record. Him and Cameron, swept again, the Canadian sweep. Like, they're really on a tear. Now, I will say this competition I thought was very entertaining.
It was the best competition of the whole World Championships.
When you're looking at it's tough. The whole championships was insane, but like I thoroughly enjoyed this competition a lot.
In terms of the depth of quality, I think.
Like
82 meters was fourth place.
Yeah, dude, like if you look at it, like, which is crazy to think, like 82 meters got fourth, like that was wild. But the hammer competition, like men's hammer competition, was definitely like my favorite amongst all of it. I just felt like it was just entertaining from like start to finish. And it was just like one of those things where it's like, I didn't pick Ethan to win, but like he really showed up and he proved, to everyone, like, hey, like this is my event. Like I'm going to be the top dog in the world in the men's hammer. Like some of these other guys, are going to show up. They're going to perform well, but I'm still going to be the top dog.
He's that guy, man. I don't know what else to say about Ethan. He's a future GOAT. He at the rate he's going, he's going to be challenging guys like Yuri Sadiq as like the best hammer thrower of all time. Drugs are not like just this level of dominance at majors is a sight to behold. So now we're gonna get into number 4 on our list. And this one was kind of like a personal favorite of mine because I've been followed this athlete career since I was in high school. And the fact that he's still throwing, because what he did when I was in high school, he was so young that it was like shocking to see what he did. But this athlete won their first global title in 2012 at the London Olympics at only 19 years old. They just came off winning the World Junior Championship, goes to London, wins the gold medal. And then fast forward 13 years, finally captures another global crown. And that's Kishore Walcott out of Trinidad and Tobago. It was such a feel-good moment to see an athlete like that who's just stuck with the sport for so long. All these athletes come up behind him, come past him, and he still stayed in it long enough to reclaim that gold after 13 years when he was an unexpected winner in London. I wanted to put that in here because just the story of like that whole progress of being a thrower, it's like you could say he peaked early, but like now he's showing, he threw 88 meters, right? Season's best to win the first world title, win his first ever world title. That's incredible for an athlete like Kishore. What'd you think of Kishore winning, knowing that history?
Yeah. So I think the men's javelin was outside of Curtis getting bronze, I felt like it was kind of just like okay.
Yeah.
I felt like it was kind of anyone's game just based off of like how these athletes were throwing. But when Walcott won, I was just like, dude, like you said, he hasn't won since 2012. And it was just like one of those things where like when you talk about like longevity in the sport, like that should be like one of the, pictures that pops up into your mind. Like also like why to never give up on your dream. Like,
Yeah.
dude, like, you could be top in anything. And it's like, if you have, that fire, if you have that will, and it's something that you want to continue to pursue, like this is the perfect example of why you should never give up.
It's also been like 6 or 7 years since his personal best. So
Yeah.
it's like he's been at this a while, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah. Congrats to Kishorn. Like I feel like that had to be ranked pretty high just because of the moment surrounding it and the history behind that performance. Maybe we'll see. Like this could be like a second win for his career.
I hope so.
And we might see some big things from him in the coming years. So now we're going to get into the top 3 of our top 10 moments list. Again, we're going to stay with the World Championships. But this one, again, was a historic moment in regards to where we're at in overall performances of the all-time list. And this is going to be Cameron Rogers capturing her second world title. She won in 23. She won in Paris in the Olympic Games. Basically has the same medal count in regards to golds as Ethan Katzberg. So Canada's dominating the women's and men's hammer throw. Cameron was someone, again, similar to Ethan, we thought was a little understated. She said personal best earlier in the year at the Prefontaine, but she wasn't hitting like those 79, 80-meter throws that other athletes were hitting. So we were kind of thinking like, oh, this might be the year where Cameron finally, gets beat.
Mm-hmm.
But no, she peaked incredibly well, hit a new personal best, is now the second all-time hammer thrower in history behind Anita Wlodarczyk. It was like 80 meters 51, something like that. Incredible throw by Cameron, incredible emotion. The moment when it finally lands over 80 meters, like it's the visual of like you have the 80-meter line, knowing she's never thrown it before, finally doing it at World Championships. Again, like Ethan, very young. She's mid-20s. Like we're going to see more from Cameron. Like she's not done. And, maybe she is at given a couple years could be a challenger to Anita's world record. Anita has it by, a little over 2.5 more meters. So it'll be crazy to see because Anita's the greatest hammer thrower of all time, men or women. What do you think of her performance? And, Cameron's just, she's trying to plant her flag as a future GOAT. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think like that flag is pretty much like just about in the ground. Like Cameron, for the third year in a row, has dominated the women's hammer. Like her and Ethan have dominated 3 years in a row where they've both swept, everybody.
And both hitting big marks at these Worlds and
big
Olympics,
marks. Like I doubted Cameron and I apologize. She was another one that I apologized to. I'm never going to bet against her. Like she is the face of women's hammer. Like I was very much Team USA bias and I'm still like at heart Team USA bias, but Cameron has been, that top figure in the space of women's hammer. And I think she's just going to continue to do that, especially as, Canada is really, taking that step forward. But Cameron has, just been so dominant for a very long time. She's the only female athlete to have a U20 medal, a world championship, and an Olympic gold medal. Like, that's saying something.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't see the pedal coming off the ground. Like, I think she's just going to be on full force for the years to come.
Yeah. That's I think the exciting part is if you look at our list, how many of these athletes are pretty young?
A lot.
And, like, we're going to keep seeing their names pop up. So that's number 3 on our list. That's a huge throw in the history books. Number 2 all time to do it at World Championships is insane. And now we're going to go into our number 2 moment. Now, I admit we're cheating a little bit on this number 2 because we're not really going to talk about one specific throw, one specific moment in time. Instead, we're going to discuss a large scale moment in time, as we're going to say, give us a little, let us loosen this up the rope a bit. We're going to say an entire weekend was a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that was Ramona, Oklahoma, the World Throws Invitational, that we had the privilege, Throws University, to stream on our YouTube channel, which you can watch every single competition on the YouTube channel right now for free. And we were able to bring that to the world, which is awesome, because what we saw that week was, I think, like I think it was like 6 new 70-meter discus throwers.
Mm-hmm.
But when you take it in totality, the world record was broken yet again by Mikolas Allecna, becoming the first ever male discus thrower to throw 75 meters. To back that up, Matthew Denny from Australia broke Allecna's previous world record. So he didn't get the chance to have world record next to his name, because by that time Allecna already threw 75. Mm-hmm. But the fact that he threw like 50 centimeters further than the previous world record says a lot about Matthew Denny. Mm-hmm. Our teammate Sam Mattis came very, very close to breaking the American record, throwing over 71 meters. Clemens Proofer threw over 71 meters. Lawrence Okoye threw over 70 meters. It was just like, it's like Oprah. It's like, you get a 70, you get a 70, you get a 70. And then to top it all off, you look at the women's discus. And, as we spoke earlier when we were talking about Val winning worlds, like, she threw 73.52 to break Jaime's NACAC record, adding half a meter to that record. And now the farthest throw since the late 80s. She's still a few meters away from the overall world record. But the overall world record for women's discus is probably the most insane performance in women's track and field. In my book, it's like that, and like the women's 400 meter. Or women's 800 meter. So it's like, it's crazy to see how much she still has left to grow. But like, we just take that whole weekend into account. We have like a almost 2-hour long video detailing that whole weekend and our experience. You set a personal best there as well that same weekend. Mm-hmm. Kind of give us like, why is Ramona special? Like, I think what I want to talk about is like, yes, people to go there for the win. People understand like it's good conditions.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to more talk about like the community aspect, because we had like 20 different countries there. Absolutely. And it was like just the community around a sport where we got to meet, all these athletes from around the world, and everyone was just excited, and the environment was good. It was positive, and everybody just wanted to throw far.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's a secret. We all go to Ramona for the wind.
Yeah.
Like to throw far. But outside of that, I feel like Ramona has really grown as a space where a lot of domestic and international athletes can come and just have fun and throw far.
Yeah.
And it's not just the discus. Like, we have javelin throwers, like Curtis Thompson was there. A few of the top javelin throwers were there. Rachel Richardson threw the world lead at the time at 78 meters at that competition, which I was able to film. Very cool experience.
The NCAA hammer throwers did really well. The Minnesota guys,
yes, they went crazy. And I forget her name, but she's the girl from Minnesota. She also went crazy. Like, there's so many great athletes from all different walks of life just at that meet. Even some of the Masters athletes who work with Caleb Seal at seal throwing. Like, everyone goes there to just go have fun, meet some of the top guys, just be amongst the space of just throwing far. And it's one of those really cool experiences. Is like, if you have the chance to go out there, I highly recommend it. Like, it's a blast. Like, it's great. Like, I'm literally speechless just thinking about, that experience.
I think one thing that we did really well this year, like as a whole team, but really putting the credit to, Don Milliken and Caleb Seal. Don Milliken obviously funds the facility. It's named after him. And Caleb is really the guy who is the head of everything. He's the one who's managing everything, getting everyone together, making sure everything runs smoothly. Think about where it was in 24 compared to 25. Like, just the size and scope of the whole event.
Yeah.
It was like, we probably had like double the athletes. Like, I swear we had maybe at least double the spectators this time around. And I hope we even have more this coming year. it's exciting to see, at like what Sam said, if you have the opportunity to go out in Oklahoma, yes, it's in the middle of nowhere, but it's pretty close to Tulsa Airport, so it's not that far of a drive if you go from there. I think it's like gonna turn to like the mecca of throwing in the terms of like you should like if Ramona stays what it is, it's a place where if you're a throws fan, you owe it to yourself to go there, spend the weekend, because it's a multi-day event. And what's crazy is, or what I think is most special is like you can just talk to throwers in between their events, and they're so down to earth, they're so open to talk to you. There's no way you will walk away from Ramona with a bad experience, but also not learning something, because you are going to hear so many different ways to throw far from the best athletes in the world. And it's like just seeing, even like watching them, how they warm up, how they train. There's a gym on site. There's so much to learn. It's just an incredible experience all around, beyond just watching the far throws in the competition, which if you are just there for that, you can also check it out on our broadcasts. Like I said, from this past year, we have all the events from all 4 days of the event. It was incredible. So that was our number 2 on the list. But before we get to our number one moment of 2025 in the sport of throwing, let us go through our honorable mentions list, which, to be honest, there were quite a few, and I really wanted to get some of these on this list, but the World Championships were just so incredible that like these are the moments that we're going to remember for all of time, like in the future.
Absolutely.
So to start off with our honorable mentions list, I'm actually going to go with Sam. He mentioned this earlier regarding our Ramona event, but Rachel Richardson going 78.80, at an event where really the discus is the highlight. She started the weekend off like with a bang, because her previous personal best was like 74.50. And then she added 4 meters to that personal best to go 78.80. She had the world lead. I think now it's number 6 all time. I believe it's now behind Cameron Rogers. But yeah, Rachel going 78.80. You got to film that.
I got to film it. I highly recommend, you go find that video. It was a really great moment. She popped off. She was super emotional, and I was able to capture it all. Go check it out.
Yeah, and our next honorable mention will be sort of 2 things, but really the highlight of this one athlete's career so far was at the U.S. National Championship for the men's shot put. We saw Josh Awatunde capture his first national championship, throwing 22.47, a new personal best on his last round to secure a bid to the World Championships in Tokyo. Unfortunately, for that same result, we also have to take the fact that Joe Kovacs, despite throwing 22 meters in that competition, missed out on his first world championship in years. And what's crazy about Joe is he then went on to win the Diamond League final like only a month later. So like Joe still proved that he still has more to give to the sport. So it's exciting to see what he's going to do this following year, knowing it's going to be an off year from a world championship. But yeah, what do you have to say about Josh's throw?
Yeah, no, Josh's throw was crazy. Just knowing like he's had some ups and downs, just staying healthy the last couple of years. It was just like one of those moments where it's like, dude, like, yes, like I think we all kind of root for Josh, kind of openly, and it was one of those cool moments to really see like him, Peyton, like all these guys kind of attack. Obviously, with that kind of performance, it left Joe out, which kind of stunk, but it's just like one of those things where it's like, when the opportunity is there, you just got to go take it.
Yeah, and another American who had an incredible year this year, the most consistent they've ever been, was Rudy Winkler, breaking the American record again, becoming the first American hammer thrower to throw 83 meters. He did that at the Prefontaine Classic, and then he backed it up with so many meets over 80 meters. I really thought this was going to be Rudy's year to medal and podium at the World Championships. Unfortunately, couldn't get it done, large part due to the fact that the World Championships in the men's hammer throw was probably the greatest World Championships in men's hammer throw history, and possibly the greatest, most competitive global men's hammer throw comp in history, when an 82 meter throw didn't even podium.
Yeah.
But Rudy went 83. What'd you think of his 83 meter throw, but also his entire season?
Yeah, dude, Rudy's the GOAT. When we're talking about like American hammer throwing, like Rudy's the GOAT. And I think it was one of those things where he had a really good year. Obviously, the championship was kind of tough, but it's just like one of those things where it's like when you reflect on just the year as a whole, like this was one of his best in his career, and I hope he continues.
Yeah, and then we have to, back that up going to the World Championships. Some of these are like, man, I wish this got on the list, but with how many champions that had unpredictable seasons leading to those championships, we had to keep them on. But a personal favorite of mine was Uziel Munoz getting the silver medal. We're talking about a guy. I've been to so many meets where Uziel's thrown at, where he's thrown like low to mid 20 meters, and I always really liked his technique. And I was like, man, if this guy could just like piece together one, he could throw really, really far. And he did it at the right moment at the World Championships. Very, very unexpected guy. We're talking about a guy who, like, yeah, he might make a final, but he's not like top of mind as someone who could podium.
Yeah.
But he went out, didn't care what anyone had to say about the predictions, blasted one, new PR, 21.97. Wins a silver medal. I had the privilege to go up to him because I was actually in the hotel when he was celebrating with Team Mexico. I went up to him. He doesn't speak any English, so I was just like, what was it? No, cumpleaños, but no, because that's birthday. But I basically like, I basically tried to say in broken Spanish, like congratulations and all that stuff. And he was very appreciative and I shook his hand.
Yeah.
Very cool guy. What'd you see when you saw Uziel go,
I was popping off. I'm not gonna lie, dude. I was popping off.
He had a great reaction.
He had a super great reaction. I forget who filmed it, but I got a message from Dane. It was like the side angle.
I think
of
that was
him
Dane, yeah.
popping off. And it was just like one of those things where it's like, dude, like if anyone deserves, like he earned it. Like don't get me wrong, he earned it. But if anyone deserves to just really pop off, it was him. And so I was super happy, and I'm really glad that he is on our list.
Yeah, at the beginning of the competition, I was actually standing next to his coaches.
Yeah.
They were trying to find a place to sit because it was so packed. So it was like crazy to think that I was like, like they asked me a question, I helped them around a little bit, pointed them in a good direction, and then to think like 30 minutes later, their athlete walked away with a silver medal was really cool.
Yeah.
And then also with the World Championships, we could not talk about this, so at least give us some slack that we didn't have this on the top 10 list, because I really wanted to put this on the top 10 list, is Alex getting bronze for Samoa. Alex is a friend of both Sam and I's, very good friend. Like I said earlier in the episode, if you really want to learn about his journey through the sport, make sure you check out the podcast that he did with Dane, first of all, from like a month or two ago. It's on the Garage Strength YouTube channel. But then go back and listen to him talking directly to athletes from a motivation perspective and what it takes to be a good thrower in the Q&A we posted on Throws University from the clinic. But, dude, it was just like the feel-good moment of the championships. Like, I can tell you with confidence, and I'm not ashamed to say this, I was crying. I was crying when he goes up for his last throw, knowing they secured the medal. Such a good guy. I've known Alex for 10 years, and it's like couldn't happen to a better guy. Incredible technique. He fought through a lot of adversity, which we'll be talking about later in this episode regarding the weather. But what did you think of Alex finally securing that world medal, becoming the first active garage strength athlete to do so?
Yeah, dude, I remember just watching the competition. I was like, dude, obviously with the weather, like it's not the greatest, but as Alex was progressing through, I was like, dude, like he has a real chance to medal.
Yeah.
Like it's very possible. Like I think when some of the guys were kind of taking that foot off the pedal because of the weather and just the conditions, like I was like, I really hope Alex really just doesn't, fall victim to that. And he didn't. And I remember I was coaching javelin at the time and I saw the result and I was losing my mind. I was just like, dude, like that's what I'm talking about. Like it's very possible to do it, and he did. And it was just like one of those things where like obviously everyone here at GS and Throws You, like we were super proud of that moment, and it's just something that we're going to continue to talk about in the future. But it was just like in that moment, in that time, dude, like that was the greatest performance of any GS athlete, hands down.
You know what's crazy? Because I've always had this theory about the discus throw for men is people peak later for the sport than I think they initially want to give credit for. Dude, Alex is 33, and he was saying that this is the best shape he's ever been in, and he feels like he's finally at the point where it's like, I understand the event, and I know how to get better.
Yeah.
He, like, knows I can throw further, and I have a few more years left in me. And it's like, this is, like, Alex's next arc in his career where he's just like, okay, I've now proven that I can hang with you guys. You guys respect me now.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm not going to let off the gas. I'm going to keep going because I know I have more to give.
Mm-hmm.
So from that perspective, it's like, I think it's cool for other discus throwers to see like, dude, here's a guy who just grinded and finally saw success, but knowing that's just the beginning. Like Alex is not done. He's more motivated than ever to throw far, and I'm excited to see what he does in this upcoming season because of it.
Absolutely.
So take a look. Keep an eye out for Alex, one at Ramona this coming year, but two, the Commonwealth Games coming out this year. And then for another one of our honorable mentions, had to talk about him, show some American pride as Curtis Thompson gets the bronze medal, the first bronze medalist for the United States in the men's javelin since Bro Greer, ironically enough, in 2007, also in Japan at the Osaka World Championships. Sam, you've been talking about Curtis Thompson all year. I want you to have the floor. What'd you think of this performance?
Yeah, dude. Now this was huge. Like we talked. I think we both agreed that Curtis, or I know I said that Curtis was gonna get bronze.
You said that. I don't think I had Curtis as bronze.
Okay, I think it was huge. Like we agreed if Curtis went 86, he would get a medal.
Yeah.
That was like the thing that we agreed upon, and a bunch of us talked about it. It was like, yo, if he does it, which we know he can because he did it multiple times this year. Yeah. He did it in his first meet and he did it in his last meet. Before the championship, and it's like if he can go 86, he'll do it, and he did just that. Yeah. Like I'm a big fan of Curtis. Like I just his swag, everything, his aura, all of that. I just think Curtis is a really cool guy, and I love seeing him perform, and obviously performing at the championship, bringing home bronze. Like that's huge. Like I'm big Team USA guy. Like I'm rooting for Team USA against the world, like on everything. So like. For him to do that, I was like, yeah.
Yeah, no, congratulations to Curtis. And I think it shows, especially with the performances in the men's javelin the last few years, I think it's pretty wide open now. And now that he has a medal, his confidence is probably much higher to do even better at future meets. So, dude, it'll be exciting come LA when it's a home Olympic Games. Like, dude, he might be in shot to really, really do something special.
I hope.
So for our next honorable mention, we have two more left. But dude, there were so many big things that happened. We feel like we wouldn't do this video justice unless we talked about it. But Merlin Hummel out of Germany going 82.77 on his first attempt to get the silver medal at this year's World Championships in the men's hammer throw. We talked earlier about the men's hammer throw at the World Championships is probably going to be one of the best, if not the best, hammer competition at a major ever. With 82 meters from, I believe, Kokon not even getting a medal. So 82.77, for an athlete like this to hit a massive personal best round one, he was actually leading over Ethan Katzberg at the time of the throw. What do you think of a performance like this? But also just like, dude, it just seems like this whole World Championships was just a bunch of people that you didn't expect to perform well, just rising to the occasion and beating top dogs.
Yeah, dude, like we said earlier, from start to finish, this competition was just, like, phenomenal.
Yeah.
And Merlin was one of those guys where, like, when he went 82.77, I was like, yo, like, because he threw further than Ethan on round one, and I was bewildered. I was like, dude, like, I remember seeing Merlin. He had a video of him doing a hammer throw into like an abandoned building, and I was just like, oh, like, who is this guy? And that was like my first real exposure to him. And then seeing him, at the championships, I was like, oh, like that's this dude. And he just went crazy. And it was just like one of those things where like his performance, I felt, just made this competition so entertaining, as a whole. Like, I think, even though I will say, like, I root against Ethan, I just felt like him having this competition was just like, dude, like, it was like a spark, and just like the back and forth between those guys, even though Ethan did go 84 round two, and it was kind of like, all right, like, Ethan does Ethan things, but it's just like him, Bence, Kokon, like, they were all just going crazy, and I was like, yeah, like, this is the competition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it was an incredible comp. It's probably that, and maybe the men's discus for other reasons, is definitely the comp you should go back and look at, because the energy throughout the whole meet was just incredible. And to see, guys throwing exceptionally far and, just falling short of medals is insane. So our final honorable mention is something that we originally had in the top 10 list, but unfortunately it's like, dude, the things that happened at Worlds were so significant that it was very hard for us to leave them off. But this would have been like my first pick to make the top 10 if there weren't such significant performances from the World Championships, and that it would be Zhang Ziyi out of China, breaking the women's junior world record in the women's javelin throw. She did this again last year. This time, 16 years old. They're 65.86. Having a throw that would have won the World Championships this year. Now, obviously, she didn't do that, but for someone so young, like we were talking about with the women's hammer for China, Zhang Ji, like 65.86, that's such an elite mark. We were talking earlier, this might be a mark where we might be talking about this girl throwing 70 meters as a junior athlete.
Yeah. Dude, like, when I mentioned it earlier, just like these young athletes are cheat codes. Like they just are in a great position to just, push the sport further than it's ever been pushed before. And it's just like one of those things where it's like, I'm all for it. Like I'm super excited, dude, like to throw that far at 16 years old. Like there's still like, who knows, like her development, moving forward. Like she might physically, still have more to develop, obviously mentally, still, developing, but just like getting experience like that just makes, the development of the athlete as a whole just take that step forward. And I feel like she's going to be one of those athletes that we're going to talk about, a lot in the future.
Yeah, when she finally gets that first like global medal, we'll definitely be discussing like the history, because clearly it's been leading up to something huge with the marks that she's hitting. So now that we've gone through all top 9 and our honorable mentions, now it is time to discuss the absolute best moment as agreed upon by Sam and I for the sport of throwing in 2025. Number 1 on our list is Daniel Stahl winning another world championship on his last throw. He did the same thing in 2023, but this one was even crazier in the sense of the buildup and the environment surrounding it, and the fact that we thought we were going to see a championship that was possibly not even going to happen. Because the men's discus throw at the World Championships in Tokyo this year had probably the worst weather in the history of the sport. It was downpour torrential rain for 2 hours. It was I think they started the event like 2 hours after the initial start time. They tried to start at once. Matthew Denny slipped so hard on his first throw, they cut the competition, send the guys back. They went back for 30 minutes, came back out to clear the ring, started warm-ups again, only to see Andreas Goodzius in warm-ups take a nasty fall right in front of all the officials. So they rounded all the guys up again, took them back into the stadium, waited another 30 minutes before they eventually brought back to start warm-ups for a third time and eventually start the competition. And Daniel Stahl was sitting in, I believe, second place behind Allecna. But the one thing you'll know about Stahl, if you watch that competition, that dude, nothing fazed him. Just before him hitting this throw, he saw one of his good friends in the sport, Alex Rose, get the bronze medal. Alex gives him a big hug, walks in for his last throw, 70 meters, walks away. Oh, the bow to the Japanese audience. And I think, dude, credit to the fans in the stadium at that point. The rest of the meet ended like an hour prior to that competition. So the fact that he gave a bow to show his respect to the fans who are willing to sit through all that rain to watch the ending of their competition, it was a spectacle. And that's the thing, is this video is meant to be the top 10 moments. And that is a moment that we're going to put on replay for years to come.
Absolutely, dude. Like, just from the beginning of the competition, like, we knew it was wet, like it was raining. It was like, okay, like, let's see how these guys handle the rain, because I'm sure everyone knows discus and rain do not, it's just like the worst equation physically possible. So it's just like, how are these guys gonna manage, competing at the highest level, with this circumstance that they can't really control?
Yeah.
I think I want to give a shout out to everyone who worked at the championships. They tried their best to do what they could to accommodate, these guys competing. Like they had, millions of towels in the circle and, they were trying to sweep, but it was just, the rain was just too much. And, it was just like one of those things where it's like, all right, we're just going to have to compete in this condition and just see what happens. And that was kind of just like the general theme of the competition for, a good chunk of these guys where it's like, all right, we're still going to compete, but, there's so much that we can't control that it's just like kind of like whatever. But there are a few guys who, did not fall victim to that, and Stahl was one of them. He pushed. There's a video out there, I forget the channel, but he has a side view of all of the tosses, and Stahl went pretty big round one. He had a foot foul, but it was like clearly he wasn't phased by the rain, and that's one of the things that we saw throughout the competition. And that's what we saw round 6. He did the barrel, like he knew, it's like, I've been in this moment before. I know if I execute what I have to, I'm gonna throw far, and that's exactly what he did. And it's just like one of those moments where it's like, dude, this solidifies him as one of the greatest discus throwers, but one of the greatest competitors when, the moment's the brightest, I think, amongst everyone.
What's wild is I was thinking this when I was like watched him in qualifying. Like when he walked in the stadium, I was like, dude, he looks fit. Mm-hmm. Like it was probably the most fit I've seen Daniel since... like at least he looked leaner. He looked leaner, but he still had like the strength. Like he still had the tone and like in his upper body where you're just like, this dude is ready to throw. Mm-hmm. And I think what you can take away from this event as a viewer, if you rewatch the men's discus, the 2 athletes you need to pay attention to. Honestly, 3 were the medalists, because not only, yes, they performed well on the day, but if you look at the way they dealt with the conditions in between the rounds, it's like you got to pay attention for the in-between moments when the camera's going around to different athletes before they're about to throw. They were far and above the most locked-in throwers that day. Mm-hmm. And this is nothing against the other competitors in that competition. Because, dude, the conditions were terrible. Like, how are you supposed to prepare for something like that? Mm-hmm. But it just seemed like that the energy from a lot of competitors was like, oh, this sucks. Like, what am I going to do? Like, this doesn't even matter anymore. Like, you could tell people were giving up halfway through. Mm-hmm. But those 3 never lost sight of the goal.
Yeah.
And I think that's what takes... And that's why I was really happy we were able to do interviews with Alex and Mikolas during the clinic, because that was something that they both kind of talked about. It's like, you can't let things phase you. Mm-hmm. You need to just execute, focus on what you can do, and stay positive, because that's the only way you throw far. What are your kind of final takeaways that like people could learn from Stahl? From this being the number 1 moment. I'm sure you're probably gonna show a moment like this to your athletes in the future. What do you think is the biggest takeaway?
Preparation. Make sure that you're training in wet conditions. I think that's a big key. It's not anything new. Like, we've preached this. A lot of pro athletes have preached this. A lot of coaches have preached this. But, that's one of the big reasons why he was unfazed. Yeah. Is because he was prepared. He's been in these conditions. They prepared for this. And it was one of those things where it's like, when you are prepared, nothing's gonna bother you. Like, yeah. You've already have the experience. You know what you have to do, and you can just go do it. I think another thing, Allecna said this, and he was like, the rain really shouldn't matter. Like, these aren't his exact words, but this is me paraphrasing. It's like, rain doesn't matter if you have good technique. Yep. So it's like, if you know exactly what you have to do technique wise, and you've honed that skill, you can just trust in your training and really just, keep attacking. And that's something that Alex definitely talked about a lot as well. He was like, dude, like, me and Dane literally had one thought, and it was just throw it up, like, get higher, like, the high point, and throw it up. And that's, what he did. And, Alex also, trains in poor conditions, being for the Midwest. Yeah. So it's just like one of those things where it's just like, preparation is key, and just knowing what you have to do and just trusting in your preparation, just trusting in your technique.
Key phrase there, preparation predicts outcome. And one final thing I'll say on Stahl, to kind of add to what you said, one thing I noticed was like Stahl made the competition work for him.
Mm-hmm.
If you saw him in the, like I said, the in-between shots, when it was raining, he was like dancing in the rain with his umbrella. Daniel was being unapologetically himself and being like, this is just another competition. And honestly, it's kind of funny. Like you could tell he was laughing about how bad the conditions were, because it's not that he was fazed by them, but he could just see the humor in the whole situation. And he's like, I got this. And it's like, you know what? I got this so much that I don't care if I get wet. What's going to happen? The disc is going to be wet regardless. So I'm going to have fun. And I think it's that level of like confidence in himself and who he is as a person. He wasn't trying to fake anything. He was just being him. And he, like I said earlier, he made the competition work for him.
Yeah.
And he's like, he used all of his throws. He had a big one, fouled in the early beginning, came back through even further in the last round.
Yeah.
So that's our top 10 list of 2025. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Throw Show. This is kind of like our comeback from the hiatus. We're going to be probably, give it another few weeks before we do our first episode, starting with the 2026 season. And then we'll be back on our regularly schedule about every other week of the Throw Show. But make sure you head over to throwsuniversity.com. We have plenty of strength programs. We have courses. We have books. Be on the lookout for our upcoming course regarding the Throws Coaches Clinic that was recently held at Garage Strength, so you guys can drop some bombs. Peace.